Welcome to the Indiana History Project. I'm your host, Norm Taylor, and we're going to be talking about things today that are disappearing from our lives. But before I get into the show, I need to make a phone call. If you would, just excuse me. So don't even watch me. I need to make a phone call. Let's see. Let's see. It's BR5, and then my number, and let's see here. All right. Yeah, you guys don't even pay attention to me out there. I'll make this phone call short. Here we go. Okay. Yeah. Hey, yeah, John. Yeah, this is Norm, Indiana History Project. Yeah, how you doing? Myrtle, what are you doing on the line? And I know this, Myrtle, every time, no, I'm not. Now, Myrtle, I know that you are listening in, because every time I phone, especially if you think I'm talking to my girlfriend, you always listen on the line. Myrtle, now, I heard a click. John, Myrtle's off the line now. You know, every time that I talk the phone, because it's a three-party line. You know how it is. And wait a minute, somebody just got on the line again. Now, who is this? Which one are you? That neighbor up the street, John. Well, we might as well go ahead and talk, because ever since we've had this three-party line, I know somebody that just has a one-party line. I mean, my goodness, they must be rich, being able to have that. Yeah, Myrtle, I'm still not talking to her. No, you can hang up now. John, I'm going to have to call you back later on, because Myrtle's just going to keep listening. Okay, I'll tell you. Yeah, the three-party line thing. Okay, I'll talk to you later. All right, bye-bye. All right. Well, people out there, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, but a lot of you don't remember. I mean, this is the day of cell phones, and I've got a cell phone in my pocket. But back in the day, we had this. That's a telephone, believe it or not. I mean, you talk about, oh boy, Larry, we feel old when we think about this.
Yes.
But the old black dial telephone. I mean, and the sound that you hear when they're like this. I mean, I don't know if it's picking up. Hopefully it's picking up over where our viewers are going to watch it. But you just don't hear that sound anymore. That's but I remember when you were in a hurry, Larry, and you had to go to 9 or to 0 to get the operator. It seemed like it forever.
Yes, it was. And you either had a long and a short, or a long or two shorts. That was your ring.
Yeah,
that's why you answered.
Yeah, that's right. If you had two longs and a short, something like that, I now remember that. Then it was yours. Yeah, I'm talking to Larry King from the Lawrence County Museum. Larry, it's good to have you. You've been on my show several times before, and we are talking about things that are disappearing from our lives. And Larry, we have been alive long enough to now that a lot of the things that we grew up with they're not around anymore. They're not even functional. I mean, it was modern to us at the time, but now they're antiques.
Yes, they are.
Does that make you feel old sometimes?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Larry, whenever I asked you to kind of come on the show and to talk about this subject, and I'm going to see if your experience is similar to what mine was. I had when I started thinking about it, I mean, automatically, there's some things just came right to my mind of things that I no longer see anymore. But once it really started, the memory bank started flowing here, then there was all kind of things that started coming to me. And, in these shows, we're just going to scratch the surface of things that we just took for granted and that we used on an everyday basis that we no longer use anymore. Did that similar thing, did start coming back to you, some of these things?
Yes, they do. They really do. They really do.
And it was kind of surprised me. You think, oh, yes, I remember that we used to use that. And I put this out on the Indiana History Project page, Facebook page. And people started talking about things. They started sending me in things that they used to see. And it seemed to be things that now even people miss. I mean, that was a part of their lives that are no longer there, and they're associated with it. And one of the things that I was listening to just last Saturday night, we went to the Lincoln Amphitheater down near Lincoln Boyhood Park, and we was watching a play down there Saturday night. And in the background was a train whistle. And, that's something I don't get to hear anymore. I heard all that growing up. It was like clockwork. At nights when I was a kid, around 11 o'clock, there was a train that came through, and you could always hear that train whistle on this, but you don't hear that anymore.
Don't hear that. That's
no.
true.
I mean, some people still would in some areas, but around here we don't hear. And how many times, Larry, if you've been around this area for a long time too, And you remember when the trains used to go downtown Bedford, and it was just right down on the square, and it would stop. And it just held up traffic. You know, you couldn't get on one side of the square or the other. It just seemed like forever.
That's I remember.
Yeah. And, you know, I certainly don't miss that part, but I do miss seeing the train come through there.
I do too. It's different. It really is.
Yeah. So we've lived long enough now that we don't see the trains anymore coming through the county, and some of these things, some of the sounds, some of the smells that are associated with some of these things we're going to be talking about, once you start thinking about it, you start to miss. And now I don't miss, again, the long wait. I always thought that whenever the trains used to come through Bedford, that I'm hoping I'm not on the wrong side of those tracks and having a heart attack, because you're just gone. Yeah, they're not going to get to you in time. It was quite an experience.
One of the hobbies was count how many cars was behind the train. We used to count how many cars was tied to the engine.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I used to do that too, yeah. You ever remember how many usually there was?
Many times it was up around 100.
Yeah, and that would have been a long train.
It's a long train.
Yeah, that's true. Larry, excuse me. You remember the old phone, I guess.
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. I used them many, many times.
and you know, now we're at the place that even landlines now are becoming obsolete. And in fact, I think I read where now more people have cell phones than just regular land-based lines. In fact, kids today that I work with, they just can't imagine why you would have a phone that you can't carry around with you, or they can't get to you, because if someone's trying to get a hold of you, that's going to the house. Well, what if you're out? What if you're out in the yard? What if you're driving around? They can't get a hold of you.
They're useless.
So yeah, what was the use of ever having these things? But that's the way it was with us, and we didn't have answering machines.
No.
That was even something that now is becoming obsolete. But so if they called and nobody answered, you were just out of luck. Yeah. No, and you didn't know that they called. Yeah. Larry, you have a bunch of things and that you have brought with us and with you, and all of these things you own. Now, did some of these things that you own you bought new, or that you collected at yard sales or antique shops, or how did you accumulate some of this stuff?
Well, a variety here. Some of these things I bought new. Some of the cameras I bought new. Some of the bottles. I used to work at the bottling company here in Bedford called Knee-High Bottling Company on 14th and I Street.
14th and I Street,
14th and I Street, where Riverside Printing is now. That was the old bottling company there.
Okay.
And matter of fact, I was there when we moved out on Mitchell Road. About 1951 or 2, they built a new building where the chiropractors are out there.
Now, I remember that one.
Okay.
I can remember that one back.
Yes.
And that was around for several years, right?
Yes, it was.
Over on
Yes,
Mitchell Road.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That was called a Knee-High Bottling Company.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a Knee-High Bottling Company sign, which could hold up here where you can see. This is the way...
Wow. Look at the great shape.
This is the Knee-High Bottling Company sign, and you could usually find these around the gas stations, and they would write the price of the gas.
Right there.
And they would put right here. They'd
right.
take a chalk and write the price of gas.
Okay.
And one I can remember is 17 9/10 gasoline.
17 and 9/10.
17 and 9/10.
That was just past Civil War, wasn't it?
well,
no,
they
wasn't quite that right. Okay. Now, where did you happen to get this sign at, Larry?
This one right here, a fellow I worked with had these at his home. He passed away, and these people knew that I worked with him, and they called me one day, and they knew I collected items, old items, and they said, "These are in our barn. Would you like to have these?"
Wow.
So I went out there, and he had some in his home. They were in his barn, stored in his barn, and when they were cleaning it, then they called me and they said, "I knew you worked with Dad," and said, "Would you be interested in one of these?"
You know, those are fantastic. Can you think about what years like this sign would have been around, Larry? Early 1950s?
Well, yeah, the 17.9, I can tell you exactly then, because that is the price of gas when I started driving in about 1953.
Okay.
And it was 17.9, and this was the sign that was hanging around the gas stations at this time.
All right. Boy, that's still in great condition.
It is, yes. Actually, I have about 3 or 4 of them.
Okay, good. The Knee-High was around for a while, but it's been out of circulation for some time too. Do you remember how much, I don't know if you got wealthy working there at Knee-High, but do you remember about how much you made during that time?
I started out $5 a day, and then they raised us to 60 cents an hour, which we worked many hours, so we actually made more money.
Yeah, really. A whopping 60 cents an hour.
Yes, and we actually did the bottling, mixing of the syrup there, and the mixed the syrup, bottled all the pop there.
Yeah.
And when the old bottles had come in, that was one of the jobs. We had to sort the Knee-High bottles from the RC bottles.
Now, Knee-High, did RC own Knee-High or Knee-High own RC? What was the deal on that then?
RC was the main pop company, but Knee-High went by Knee-High Bottling Company, what it went by.
Okay, all right.
And there was about 6 or 8 flavors.
Yeah.
Actually, have a couple of them here.
Boy, can we open that up, Larry?
Well, I don't think we can open this one. Yeah, it's been in there too long.
I don't think we're going to be wanting to drink that. Okay.
This one was called a lemon sour.
Oh,
a lemon sour, and it was just a really great drink, which is something of the past we don't have anymore.
Yeah.
We also had a grape. This one was called a grape soda.
Grape soda.
Grape soda.
Okay.
And so this is a grape
Knee-High.
Knee-High grape. It turned out very well.
All right.
So,
and I remember I've drank a few of those Knee-High grapes.
Yes, I have too.
And they were good.
Yeah.
No.
Also, in Bedford, we had the Coca-Cola Bottling Company. And the Coca-Cola Bottling Company was located about 17th and H. And back many years ago, you'd look on the bottom of the bottle and you see where it was bottled. And this one right here happens to say Bedford, Indiana.
Yeah.
It's Bedford, Indiana. So it was bottled here in Bedford.
Now, how did you happen to come by that bottle? I mean, did you just luck upon it that you just found one that had Bedford on it?
Well, many times down through the years, I'm always looking for those items, and I've found them, as you say, at antique shops and yard sales, and many of them I picked up along the way just as what I had myself.
Okay.
So we had those.
And now the bottling company, now I know it was, the one I can remember was located near where the current day post office in that area.
Yes,
right there. Is that where that would have been bottled at?
That's where it was bottled. Coca-Cola Bottling Company, yes, right there.
And that was several years that
many.
was bottled there.
Oh, yes. That was a very big plant there. It was.
Okay.
Then we also had what's called a Dr. Pepper bottle.
Oh, that's
This is the Dr. Pepper bottle that always had the 10, 2, and 4 on the side of the bottle. So that's the Dr. Pepper bottle, and then they kind of...
And I think I read where did they come up with that 10, 2, and 4? I think I heard it was kind of a slogan at one time to use. It'd be kind of a pick-me-up time, where at 10 o'clock and then 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock. They got it for a good pick-me-up or something like that.
Okay.
But on that, these were... that Dr. Pepper bottle, was that a 10-ounce bottle? How many ounces was that?
Yeah, this one here, let's see, the Coke was 6.
Or was that Knee-High the 10 ounce?
Yeah, the Knee-High was the 10 ounce.
Okay, and that was
of course,
pretty standard.
Yes, well, the RCs was 12 ounce at the time. Coca-Colas were 6.
Yeah.
But then they came along with RC Cola. This is more recent, which is still old, but this is kind of a throwaway bottle.
Okay.
And these were made as throwaway bottles, except on the side it says Vermont, Connecticut, Delaware, 5 cents cash return. So they didn't want them thrown around.
No, they didn't.
They would bring those back. But that is the bottling company there, which turned out very well. And
now, Larry, when you were drinking these Knee-Highs back years ago there, would that have cost a dime?
Oh, no, 5 cents.
That was only 5 cents.
5 cents, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 2 cent deposit on the bottle. And I went on the truck a time or two, and of course there was 24 bottles in a carton that you carry them in. So 2 cents was 24 bottles, 48 cents plus 2 cents for the carton. So it was 50 cents deposit on the entire 24 bottles. That's what it was.
50 cents deposit on that. So that's how you used to buy them. Did you get a discount whenever you worked there at Knee-High?
Well, actually, we just drank the pop there ourselves free.
Okay.
Bob let us drink free pop there, which with kids, as I was at the time, that was
a big
that was a big deal.
That was a big deal.
It was a good fringe benefit there.
Now that's going to spark a lot of interest in our viewing audience right there. Because you think of it. Now I can only remember the 10 cent, that it was 10 cents a bottle, and then I can remember when it was a 3 cent deposit. But if you always brought in your bottle, of course you didn't have to pay that deposit.
Right.
And I remember a neighbor of mine that had a stack of bottles in his yard there, and so he told us neighborhood kids that to just come and get a bottle, take it up to the old community grocery, and then turn it in, and then bring the bottle back and put it back. So he had a stack of it. But whenever they went up from 3 cents to about 10 cents or something like that, a huge jump, he just thought he'd made a fortune. I mean, what
Yes.
an investment. I mean, talk about land investment, you know, and all that. But this was he had a ton of those bottles. He made a fortune out of that. So,
yes.
but I can remember that, the returnable bottles and then taking it in. So that's going to be a memory for a lot of people today.
These bottles here, 5 cents per bottle when you buy it. You buy pop for 5 cents and 2-cent deposit if you took the bottle with you.
Well, you know, yeah, and you know, and Larry, if there's a lot of people I remember would, especially like the old community grocery or the gasoline stations. We'll be talking about these a little bit later too. But I can remember that people, you know, would just stay there if they didn't have the money for it to take for the deposit. Then they would stay there, drink the pop, and then just leave the bottle, and that way they could, you know, there. But you're only talking like 10 ounces there, so it didn't take you too long to put one of those down.
That's true.
Yeah.
They were delicious back then too.
They sure were.
Real sugar back then. They tasted real good, which we didn't know wasn't good.
Yeah, and they were excellent. People missed that for a lot of years. I remember
Yes.
people talking about how powerful those little Cokes were. I mean, and I can remember that they certainly were. You brought a carton of bottles there too. Is it located
Yes.
somewhere here?
Yes, we have a
here?
carton of bottles
All
here.
right.
And it
Well,
says-
how many of you can remember these old cardboard carton and probably not a lot of them around because we flattened a lot of those cartons,
Yes.
didn't we?
Yes,
and,
we did.
And a lot of them got destroyed, and so there's not a lot of them left.
Actually, this one here, I put a variety of bottles in here. We have the Dr. Pepper, the RC, Mountain Dew, and Big Red Coke on the back. So I put a variety of bottles in here. But this,
Yeah.
this is one of the larger cartons. You had the small ones that had 6 in them, and there was a small carton with the smaller bottles.
So and these were the 16 ounces by the time then. Yes.
Well, 16
Okay.
ounces, right.
Right. And all that's collector's items now, isn't it, Larry? That these bottles, and especially if they are not opened, then they're more valuable, I
Yes.
guess, right
Yes,
now. But
they are.
Now, you remember whenever you went to get a carton of your 8-bottle pack there, you could mix them up, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember you could do that.
Oh, yes.
You could go ahead like you did.
Did
You
here.
could have a couple of Big Red, you could have a Coke, you could have an RC
Sure.
or
Yes.
something in there, and you could pick them up. So you could mix them all up. It didn't matter if it was Coke or Pepsi products. Isn't that right, Larry?
That's
if
true.
I can remember that.
Yes,
right.
it is. That's true.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's going to stir a lot of
Now,
memories.
these are very rare with the cardboard.
Right, it sure is. When you out there, like, listening to this program already, I know that it's starting to jar the memory, hopefully, for a lot of people. And they say, oh, yeah, I remember these, and I remember this and that. Well, I always encourage you to go ahead and to write me or to give me a phone call. Or I know when you see me out, you'll say, oh, yeah, I remember this. And be sure to do that. We're going to do another show on this subject. So I'll take the comments that you guys email me or you write me on the Indiana History Facebook, Project Facebook, and say, I remember this. Or if you want to send pictures to me, that's fine. So we'll share this when we do our second show. So if it's stirring some memories and we're missing some things, well, we can't get them all in, but we'd like to hear your comments on that, and we'll use that for the second show. Larry, right down there toward the end, what is that contraption that you have there?
This right-
Yeah, what
this
in the
right
world
here.
is that?
This is actually called a turntable.
Now, can we see that okay in there? I'm talking to Maria, the director. Is okay? It looks like it, so we can see that all right? All right, you're going to lift it up anyway, I guess.
Okay. I'll just take the top
All
of
right.
it off here where we can see the top of this. And this is called a turntable.
Okay.
And the turntable back then, we had 3 different speeds.
Ooh.
You could burn a record.
Oh, that's a fancy turntable
it was
there.
at the time, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And of course you could start out with the 45s. This is 1 speed. We had the 45 records. And you could get all type of music. Of course, one of them I brought here was a song that some of you may remember, the Purple People Eater.
Yeah. Who did that? He's still around, I think. isn't he? Or-
Well, actually, this Sheb Woolley is the one that
No,
done
okay.
this, but I think
Okay.
he's also went under the name of Ben Colder. And because I have a CD today, and Ben Colder, it's his song, and he does this. And I think he actually went under it.
Okay.
But anyhow, you could,
What year did that come out there, Larry? You remember? The one-eyed
one-eyed
purple people.
one-horned people,
Yeah,
purple people eater,
say
yes.
that 10 times fast.
yeah.
Well, if you would, Larry, just go ahead and make your singing debut and sing it, would
Yeah,
you?
well, I think I'll pass this time. I haven't practiced enough yet. I think I need a
Oh,
little
I'd
more
love to hear you
practice.
sing it. I mean, but if you start singing that song, I remember trying to sing that song, Larry.
Oh,
and
yes.
it was, and if you say that one-eyed purple people,
One-eyed Red, White, Horn, Purple
Eater,
People
whatever
Eater.
he did. You try to sing that very fast, and you'll probably get banned from watching this show.
Okay. Oh, you notice this.
I remember the song though.
Yeah, this 45 records has a large hole in the center.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you had to have this little adapter in the middle that fit right on here.
Right.
So that works with the 45. But then if you want to change the speed, this is the record that was actually before the 45, and it was called a 78 record. 78 RPMs per minute.
Yeah.
And so, of course, this one says MGM. This is another one that song here that was popular in the 50s. And called Lavender Blue. I don't know if you remember that one or not. That may be before your time. But,
who did that one there?
Lavender Blue was put out by, I'm not sure. I'm not sure who put out by.
Who did it? Who did it? They made a record out of it.
Okay.
Anybody out there remember Lavender Blue? I mean, I don't remember that one.
The flip side of that is called Down Among the Sheltering Palms. Now, you may remember that one. That one stayed around.
That one does sound a little bit familiar.
That one there come in. Okay, but this is a 78 records. The only problem with the 78 records is they were breakable. So then when they come along with the 45 that we have here, these were unbreakable. They thought we'd really hit the big time.
Oh, yeah.
So these are unbreakable. You could just throw these around.
They may have been unbreakable there, but they would scratch.
They would scratch, yes, they would.
And once you got a scratch on one, I mean, it was, all of a sudden in your favorite song, it would go,
that's
it would just skip right over your favorite part.
Or it would stick on the same
line. Or it would
and
stick on there, and then it would just keep going round and round and round. Yeah, you're right about that.
But with these, one thing about these adapters, they were handy back then is we had the 3 speeds. All you had to do was just flip this little button right down here. You flip that for whatever speed you want.
Yeah.
And then we went to the...
And if you bought a 45, you were just probably interested in one certain song, weren't you?
Right, that's true.
I mean, because you weren't maybe interested in buying an album of all those, but you wanted that one certain song.
That's true.
Or the backside, okay.
Okay, then we went to what we call the LPs, 33 RPMs per minute. And this one here happens to be Tennessee Ernie Ford, songs I love to
Tennessee
sing.
Ernie Ford.
And I happened to, last night while I was preparing this, played some of these songs, and it brings back a lot of memories when you hear these.
It sure does. What's on that album there? What's some of the songs? See if I remember any of them.
Okay, Little Green Apples.
Oh, I know that one.
Okay,
sure
I Can't Get Started.
Little Green Apples.
It was a very good year.
Yeah.
My Funny Valentine, Autumn Leaves, When It's Sleepy Time Down South, I'll Never Smile Again.
I remember that one.
P.S. I Love You. And By the Time I Get to Phoenix.
Oh, that was popular. Well, that was made and remade too. That was a good song there.
But these songs here, as you can see, they had several on them. Let's see if this one. Many songs.
So if you, let's say, Larry, that you wanted to cut to the chase and you wanted to get to one of them on these albums. Now, what did you do with that in order to get to, let's say, song number 4 or something?
Well, what I did was I listened to song number 1, 2, 3.
Oh, so you wouldn't skip over it then?
No, you could see.
You could somehow lift up that arm
right.
there,
you could. You could lift the arm
and put it over there.
Now, if you look on these tracks, I don't know if you can see this or not from here, but if you look on the tracks, there is a little blank space on the track there.
Okay.
And so you could, but I guess I always chose to listen to 1, 2, 3 so I could get the 4.
You could get the full part of it. Okay.
So that was kind of the music end of it.
Yeah.
And then after those, we came along a little more modern. And then we come up with what we call an 8-track.
Oh, an 8-track. How many of you out there remember 8-tracks? My goodness.
The 8-tracks were
that was
very
big
good.
for the time.
Yeah, that's right. We thought this was continuous music. You didn't have to keep changing the record. These would just continue to play. And this one here happens to be a Christmas song of Oh Holy Night.
Okay.
And so we thought we was big time when we got to these.
Oh, yeah. No, when we got the 8-track player in the car, yeah, that was. And now the 8-tracks, one thing I can remember about 8-tracks, Larry, is that if it ever got stuck in there, that tape, and you yanked it out, I mean, it would just come on out, and they would just ruin the whole tape. Or sometimes you could rewind it within the tape sometimes, but or not on 8-tracks. It was cassettes you could rewind in there, and the cassettes would do the same thing. It would kind of stretch out, wouldn't it?
Yes, that's true.
And you have some cassettes right there.
Yeah, I have some cassettes. Actually, this is a cassette. When we come to the cassettes would come out here, and we have cassette players. Yeah. And the cassette player, I didn't bring one today, but you had to have a special cassette player to play these. And these were, you could get these with, this is a television show, Burns and Allen.
Yeah.
Remember the television shows? Will Rogers, Fibber McGee and Molly, Jack Benny, Abbott and Costello.
Yeah,
so these are just a little collection here of the cassettes.
And you know, you're talking there about old time radio, and boy, those were classics. I still love
Those are
listening to
classic.
old time
Yes,
radio.
Yes, I do too, and it's very interesting. These are not totally out of business because I volunteer at the museum. And all of our meetings has to be tape recorded. We had a board that decided everything should be tape recorded. So we still use a cassette and tape record each meeting that we have. So it's all on
you do?
tape.
So it's not completely out of
It's
our
not
lives.
outdated, yes.
Yeah,
It's outdated, but
Again, the title of our show is the things that are disappearing from our lives. And some of these things are not completely gone, but they're certainly leaving. Some of them are completely gone that we're going to be talking about these next couple of shows. But some of these things, Larry, are things that are actually going to make a comeback someday. Some of these things we'll see again. Like, for instance, the old vinyl records that you're talking about there, they actually are trying to bring them back now. There's some artists out there actually starting to record again and on the old
yes.
artists. So
Okay.
we may have not have seen the end of that, but we've certainly seen, we don't see much of it anymore.
okay.
Okay. All right, then you have some cameras there, it looks
Yes,
like.
moving cameras. Actually, we'll start out with the oldest one here. Probably take some of our older viewers to know what this camera is. This was called a box camera. And it was actually called a 620 was the model of the film. It took a 620 film. And of course you'd hold this down and you look in higher and just look out the front there.
Yeah.
A very, very old camera. As a matter of fact, that one belonged to my mother many, many years ago. So then we moved
And
on
about
to
what years, how old would that be, Larry, this box camera?
20s, 30s, 40s.
Okay.
Yeah, you're back there.
So it made
those
them
ages.
several years there. Would that have been pretty expensive to buy back in the day, let's say around 1930 in the 1930s? Would this have been a pretty expensive kind of camera?
I can't answer that. I really don't know on that. I'd say it's probably an average price camera there, the box camera.
Yeah.
Probably a good family camera.
Okay.
That families could afford. I would say that's about the way I would describe that one.
And getting pictures printed during this time, I mean, it was expensive back in years ago.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
it was very expensive. So it wasn't something that you just casually went out and did. Now we have, of course, the capacity with our phones and through our cameras to just take thousands of pictures. I mean now, but that of course we don't usually print them all up.
Yes.
But it was expensive to get some of these printed, wasn't it?
That's true, because once you take one of these, it's on film, and you can't erase it like you can on today's cameras.
Yeah.
If you take 12 pictures, you got to develop 12 pictures to see what they look like.
Right.
And
yeah.
now then today we can take 50 pictures and maybe
then
you only
select-
want 4 or 5 of them, and you can view them, and then that's
Right.
all you have printed.
Yeah, that's true. It's very
So,
true.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then we moved on to Polaroid came along with an instant picture. You didn't have to take in have developed. Of course, Polaroid first camera was called a swinger camera. A swinger camera was a little black and white instant photograph.
Yeah.
Well, this one here, then Polaroid, they became color. And this is one of the first color cameras to come out, a 210, model 210 it's called. And of course, you could have an instant color picture, and we thought we were really progressing
my
at that time.
goodness,
We were having big time progress.
Yeah.
But this is a Polaroid instant camera model 210, and I believe now that 210 was one of the first models that they came out with color.
Okay.
So this is
That's neat. That's neat.
inexperienced.
Did you buy that one new?
Yes, I bought
Yeah.
this one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
I
many
bet so.
years ago. Probably this one here. I'm going not being specific, but probably sometime in the 60s.
Okay.
This is probably a 60s camera.
Boy, you were just a photographic
Well,
buff there, huh? I mean,
I enjoyed it.
yeah,
I enjoyed photography.
yeah.
Yes, I
So,
enjoyed it.
were you pretty good at it?
Well, no. I like to practice, but I wasn't good. But I even at the time I even took a correspondence course in photography.
Oh, okay.
New York Institute of Photography.
Well, so I didn't know I had a professional photographer with me today.
No, not professional.
Okay.
Okay, then we came along with what's called a 35 millimeter camera. And these cameras here, when we got to these, this was, we thought we were at the top of the line then. We didn't think we could progress anymore. A 35 millimeter camera was just great. And you could have pictures. You could also have slides. If you wanted to, you could have little slides. If you wanted them to develop and not print,
Yeah.
you could have them printed into slides. And a slide looks something like this. And a slide, we could have a screen in front of us with a projector, and we could blow it up to a huge, large size that everyone could view it.
Yeah.
And as someone said, you could show your vacation pictures that no one else was interested in. You could show them all.
Oh, my goodness, how many times did we bore people and doing that? I mean, having them come over and watch our vacation pictures, or the kids playing for hours. Back then it was handy, but sometimes you needed a flash. So you needed a little flash attachment. So this is the flash attachment right here that this slips right on the front here. So then you can, and then you've got, when you take a picture, you got the flash. Yeah.
It works very well.
Yeah, it sure did.
The 35
look at the size of that flash attachment there. Yeah.
Right. The 35 millimeter cameras was a big advancement in film at the time. It really was. They were big ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Then after that, we kind of wanted moving pictures. And so we got into, we started out with what's called a regular 8 movie camera. Well, I didn't bring my regular 8, but this is a Super 8, which followed the
hey, they made
regular
a movie recently. It was about a year or two ago called Super 8 about some kids they were taking.
Yes, these were called a Super 8 camera, and they were just great. You could have movies and with color, and these are, I thought, were just great. This one here is a Yashica. And it's just a great camera. It was a great camera at that time.
Oh yeah, that was state of the art then.
It was, yes, it was.
And now I've got a little camera, and I still love it. And all the holiday stuff, I'm taking pictures, and it's in the palm of your hand. It is so small.
Yeah. Okay.
Now so.
I did skip one thing here a while ago when I had the 35 millimeter camera, which was this camera right here. This is the type of film, and you could. This is a film that would go in this camera. This is a 400 speed, which is a good all-purpose speed. You could take indoors and outdoors with this one. That was a big advantage of the 35 400 film.
Yeah.
400 speed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And before we get on to some of this other stuff, Larry, I just thought, as we're looking over your collection there, one thing that we don't see anymore is people are going to say, well, "How did you open the bottles?" I mean, I can actually see young people would be asking, how did you open these bottles? And actually, everybody would carry around bottle openers, didn't we?
That's true. We carry them. The pop companies back then would actually give away pop openers. Each pop machine cooler would have an opener on the side of it.
Right.
You could open them there. So there was many ways to open the pop bottle.
And I'm going to say, I used to have, but I don't think I probably have anymore. I used to have a little bottle opener about this size. Yes. On one end it was a bottle opener, on the other end it was a can opener. Remember,
yes.
It had the sharp
That's
end,
true.
and so it was kind of combined, and those were around for years. I mean, I don't know if I may still have one of them somewhere around there, but
that's true.
Those were always handy.
Yes, they were very handy.
So I'm sure this probably happened to you, Larry, sometime along the line, but what happened? You were thirsty, you had a bottle pop, but you didn't have a bottle opener. Now, how are you going to get it open? I actually knew people try to open them with their teeth, and tried to open bottles, and they would chip their teeth. Yeah. But how would you? Do you remember that? Did you ever have that happen to you?
Well, there was usually openers around where I was working at the bottle company. There was usually a bottle opener around, or I carried one in my pocket.
Yeah. Well, I can remember actually time whenever we had a bottle, but we had no way opening it, and so you had a problem there. But I can remember that somehow one of the friends of mine, he could open up the car door and somehow put it in there and was able to jimmy it of the car door there. But so anyway, you guys out there that are listening to this, if that ever happened to you, send me an email of how would you open one of these bottles if you didn't have a bottle opener. I'd be interested to hear the people that watch this program how they did that. And I'm hoping that most people didn't try to do it with their teeth, but I do know people did that.
I have heard of that.
Yeah, I have too. When we go back into things that we no longer are seeing that are leaving our eyes, my father always said, and he was amazed when he came back from Korea in about 1952 or somewhere around 1953, and he came back and he landed in San Francisco, that he said the most amazing thing to him at that time was to go to a storefront, and there was a television set, and to him, in his time, he said the TV set just revolutionized. It was just beyond imagination how the TV set changed things. And when we look back now, and when we went, silent pictures, and then they went to talkies, and the way that the movie and the TV industry has changed their lives, that really has over the course of the year, hasn't it, Larry?
Yes, it has. It really has. The TV it really changed things.
Did you watch TV on the old black and white much?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Our first television black. The first time I watched TV before we was actually able to afford one in our house is Bridwell Music Company on Lincoln Avenue brought televisions out. They were black and white at the time,
Yeah.
but they set one in the window, and I remember going and sitting in their parking lot outside and watching the television through their window.
And that was just like going to the movies.
Oh
wasn't it?
yes, oh yes,
That was an amazing thing.
Yep.
Can you remember when color TV started coming in?
oh yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that. Oh yes.
I remember not everybody, when color TV started coming in, not everybody had colored shows. I remember my earliest recognition was Bonanza. I remember when they started doing color.
Oh, yes.
The Wonderful World of Disney had color, and some of them, but it was amazing the transition. It was very expensive to go from black and white to color,
Yes.
but some of them started breaking that ground, but they were still, some of them hanging on to black and white. But there was a real transition stage around probably 1960, somewhere around in
The
there.
1960s, yes, when color, yes, right.
So people had antennas that was outside.
Right.
But if you didn't have an antenna that was outside, which you had to go out there and you had to adjust it the way the wind was turning to, if you was wanting to watch Channel 4, you had to turn the antenna to a certain direction. If you wanted to pick up Terre Haute or Louisville, you had to change the antenna.
Oh, yes, you did.
I guess people can watch this and they think, those guys are just way too old for me. But what about the, right here in front of me, that is a kind of an antenna.
Okay, this come along a little later. People didn't want to go outside or didn't have an antenna. They could have what they call rabbit ears.
Yeah.
And so you could hold this up here and set this on your television. You had rabbit ears. And, of course, the rabbit ears go out like this, or they would extend out like this. And you'd have to, on
What a
your
modern
television,
invention.
you'd go over and you'd adjust it to which angle was, or pull this sleeve up, or this one down, or that's the way you brought your TV reception in at that time.
Do you remember if that worked as well as those antennas on the outside?
They weren't as good, but they would, if you didn't have the outside antenna,
And if a
you
storm was
appreciate
going
it.
on, you surely didn't want to go out there and
That's
adjust
for
that
sure.
antenna, so
That's
it was
for
a lot
sure.
safer for them.
Yes, but
You
the
know
rabbit ears they were a big improvement.
Surely, and so, whenever you were adjusting this here, Larry, and these rabbit ears, and I remember doing this myself, but you know what it reminded me of was My Favorite Martian. Now, how many of you, if you're out there, remember My Favorite Martian, how you would adjust his antennas? Can you remember My Favorite Martian? Anybody out there remember? Yeah, antennas would come out of his head. And I guess he got good reception that way, but that's some TV show back, way back, all right.
Yeah,
That's what
okay.
that reminded me of.
Okay.
But, okay, I haven't had much sleep lately. All right.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I
All
brought-
right. Okay, we have
brought one other
what
thing
is-
here.
Oh, my goodness.
This
that
is
thing-
a razor. Before Schick revolutionized razors, this was a type of razor we had. This is called a double-edge razor, and we had double-edged blades. And what you would do, you would unscrew this little handle, and as you can see, this opens. Put your blade right in here, and then you could close it, and then you was ready to shave. You could shave either side with a double-edged razor blade.
Okay.
And I had some razor blades, but I could not find one to bring it with to show you the double edge, but that is the way they work.
And now, whenever I first started to shave, that's what I started to shave on.
Right.
And I know that they were, at the time, they were smooth and all that, but boy, I can remember I was just learning how to shave, but boy, I can remember a lot of cuts and scrapes with those things right there. And if you didn't get them down tight, and it seemed like the blades wore a lot easier back then. I mean, they didn't have the long-lasting effect that today's do they?
But the advantage of these was if that side wore out, you just turn it around and use the other side.
True. That's true. So
Twice
I
the
guess
value.
the double edge.
A double edge.
Yeah, I wonder how many out there can remember those shavers there.
I'm sure many people can remember these.
Yeah, that's true. Okay,
Okay.
good. That's neat.
Okay.
Okay.
One other item is catalogs. And used to, we'd order our Christmas out of the catalogs or anything we'd want. Many times we ordered out of the catalogs. And this one here happens to be a J.C. Penney catalog from 2003. Spring and summer catalog.
Okay.
And I understand, I've been told recently in the last few days that J.C. Penney is discontinuing all of their catalogs.
Okay, so they're not putting out the
They're
catalogs
not putting out
anymore.
anything, and I have the Sears catalog. Sears used to put these out, the big, thick Sears catalogs. And I think it was in the 90s that Sears actually stopped putting out their final catalog.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
these were large. This is what you could open up and order practically anything. We have curtains here,
Right.
and it you could order
Yeah. There's
Carpet.
rugs. Yeah. Yeah.
anything
clothes.
here.
Yeah.
Sears, actually, I have a Sears catalog. It's a duplicate and 1904 Sears catalog. And when you open up, it's very interesting. And the items that you'd see in that Sears catalog is totally different than what you'd see in catalogs in 2003 with this one.
Yeah, no doubt about that. That's kind of fun to compare like prices and
yeah.
and things that were popular during that time with that. So those are really going to be someday, for those that are going to keep those, it's going to be a collection of what was the fad of the time, and that's going to be popular as far as prices, what we wore and what we were putting in our houses and so forth. And you know, Larry, if we probably would do a show like this in another few years, you know, something else that's going to be eliminated from our life is going to be the phone books. Those are on the way out too.
Yes.
I mean, we still have them, but if you look at the phone books now, they're not near the size that they were years ago. And they believe that this someday, like the newspaper will be, the printed newspaper will be a thing of the past. These are things that are starting to disappear from our life. The phone books, the newspapers, and our lives are changing every day, Larry.
Yes, they are.
And it's hard for me to keep up with some of this.
Yes, they are.
You brought also an interesting item right here. Some people are going to go, you can remember these because they were around for a long, long time, but then a lot of people haven't seen one since. What is this contraption right here?
Well, this is called a typewriter. You could, many people that type letters, all your letters back at that time, you have a typewriter. And of course, when I was in school, I even took a typing class.
Yeah, I did too.
You take a typing class, and but the computer just pretty well eliminated the typewriter.
Yes,
but
it
this
did.
typewriter here, I think this typewriter here, I have 3 or 4 at home, but a few years ago when the corporations were merging and Olytic was getting rid of theirs, they had an auction sale at Olytic, and they sold different computers or typewriters that they'd had in there. And I think I bought this one at an auction sale in Olytic. They had them out in the gymnasium at the time, and they have an auction sale there. You could go in and pick out these if you wanted to buy them, and I bought it as an antique.
Yeah. And so this came from the old Olytic school?
This came from I think this one here came from the Olytic school, yes. I bought that.
Okay.
And they also had electric one that day, and I bought it. Of course, they're huge and they're heavy to carry, so you don't move them around like we do today. So.
Yeah, and you know, and again, people are going to think, yeah, when you came out with Word, you know, on internet, and it was just so much easier. I mean, you instead of stopping, when you made a mistake, you had to stop, you had to back it up, you had to correct it, take, you know, the typing paper or erase it or something to correct it, white out to correct it, and then you had to go on. But now, of course, the typing on the computer, you just back up and eliminate that and go right on with it. It makes it easier.
But it's interesting, and still even today, to see some of the ladies that can type these real fast. You know how quick they can do some of these letters. It's unbelievable. My speed was never very fast when I was in school. But
mine wasn't either. But I was never a very good typer, but some were pretty fast.
Yes.
And if you were a good typer, then sometimes that would guarantee you a better job.
Oh, yes. Yes.
We've got, we're coming to an end. We're not going to be, we're going to be doing another show on this, folks, maybe even 3 shows. I'm going to keep this, couple of these things for a later show because we have some gasoline stations. We're going to be talking about gasoline stations here a little bit later. But I do want to talk about some of these. What about this photo that you have right here, Larry? What is this?
This photo is a Coca-Cola delivery truck. Many years ago, and we don't have any date on this one. But this is a Coca-Cola delivery truck back at the time when our local distributors had their own trucks. And they would pop around to each of the little village stores around the county. And so this one here is a very old one. Now I don't even remember this kind here myself, but we had this at the museum.
Okay.
But, when I was working at the pop company as a youngster, we loaded many trucks, but the trucks were more modern than this at the time. This was antique then. But I did find this picture, and I thought it would be interesting to show how pop was delivered here. But
that was I don't know what year that would have been. Somebody that knows the age of the vehicle probably could tell us there, but that's a neat photo.
I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but this license plate says Indiana 27 on it, so that's probably very possible. But if you can see this 27 right here, And I
Okay.
suspect that that is probably
So
a 27. It says Indiana 27.
Okay.
That's probably the year it was licensed
So around
there.
1927,
so that was
1920,
during
somewhere
this
around there,
time.
that
Yes.
photo.
Mhm.
That's a neat photo, and that's something that's very collectible now with people's, Coca-Cola. We did a show, Larry, on the old community groceries just a while back. Perry Mullis and I did one, and some kind folks have done some research on that, and has got me more. I just haven't had time to get out there and to follow up on the research, but we're going to do another one on the community groceries. That was a very popular show. And you brought one here that on the popular. Can you talk a little bit about this photo?
Yeah, this photo right here was where it says upstairs law office of Moses Fell Dunn and his brother George Dunn. This one building was located where the Masonic Temple is today. This was as you know, the Masonic Temple was built, I can't give the exact date, but around 1917, 18, along in there. So this was prior to that time right here.
Okay.
And this is the same location as where the Masonic Temple on the square is today.
Okay, good. Now, would that have been, so obviously that building was torn down when they made the Masonic Temple
yes,
there, but that's a neat shot there. These old community groceries have a real fascination for people.
Moses Fell Dunn, who is very well known around this area, it says upstairs law office of Moses Fell Dunn, his brother George Dunn. And if you look, you can actually see them. Sometimes it takes a magnifying glass or close looking, but you can read their sign up there where they were.
Okay, yeah, great shot there. And right here is another, you're going to be talking about, I know a little bit about the Iron Bridge and also about the grocery store part of it there.
Yeah, you mentioned the iron, pictures of iron bridges or something like that. This is actually in the town of Springville. Look closely here, you can see the two iron bridges right here, the iron structures. This one actually, I think we have a picture at the museum, and it was about 1953 or 54. The truck started to cross here and actually fell through. So that's when that ended this one's career. It went to a concrete bridge after that.
Okay.
But when I was looking at this picture, I noticed here there's a little grocery store on the left, on this left side here, and there's a picture of a bread box. Now, back years ago, the delivery man would deliver bread before the store opened, and they had a bread box that sat out in front of the store. So if he got there before the store opened, he would just lift the top lid here and put the bread in there, and then when they opened the store, they could carry the bread inside. It was mostly used for seats for loafers, too, also. It made a good loafing seat.
Yeah,
But
right.
when I found this on here, we tried to go to the computer of today's technology and see if we could blow this up a little bit.
And you were able to do that. We got a nice photo here.
And we were able to blow this up. If you look,
bread
this
box.
was, the store was actually called Cather's grocery store there in Springville, right next to the creek in Springville now.
Okay.
And this building was here, and they had a little bread box that showed in that picture there. We tried to blow this up, and it's hard to read, but it does say Honeycrust right here. And of course, the Honeycrust Bakery was located here in Bedford, on where the Mullis Petroleum office or building is there now.
Right.
That was the Honeycrust Bakery at the time. And also, you can read the Pepsi Cola sign, Cool sign.
There's a Cool cigarette sign.
Cool
in
cigarette
there.
sign,
Yeah.
yes. So I thought it was interesting when I found that picture, and I found out that the bread box was there, and I thought, well, we might comment on that.
Right. That is a great shot. And we have one more shot here. What do we have here?
Yeah, this one here is called a Mart Smith Grocery, and this one is actually in Williams, Indiana. It's just up above the dam. There's where this picture was taken. I can remember this myself, still being there myself, and I don't remember the years that this went out. I don't recall that.
This was in association where the current little grocery store, what's the name of it? The
Penix?
Or
I think
yeah,
Penix
it
is
was
it.
up toward that way then.
No,
toward,
it was on the
what?
main drag through town.
Oh, it was right through town.
Right
where-
through the main highway,
where
through
the
town,
school
yes.
and the post office and all that. So it was up in that area. Okay,
Yes,
I know where you're at
actually,
now.
this one here, when you're standing here and you're looking down, you can look right over the dam. Is where it was right here. You'd be looking right
So
straight at
is
the dam.
the house still standing there at this time? Do you remember?
I cannot
Okay.
answer
Well, I'll
that.
look it
I
up
don't know on
someday.
that one.
Okay. All right.
But I thought it was interesting. Mark Smith Grocery, it's called.
Okay. Well, always our people that watch it, they had a real fascination when we do the community grocery. And folks, I know you've been waiting patiently for me to do the second show on the community groceries, and I'm going to get it done. I've got a lot to do, but I want to get that done. But these old community grocery stores are fascinating. We have just scratched the surface on this subject now, and I'm counting on you folks to send me an email or get on the Indiana History Project, like the Indiana History Project Facebook page, and let me know of things, especially if you have some pictures that you would like to send me, so I can include that when Larry and I do another show on the subject. But we have just scratched the surface. We've got a lot more things. Larry, I found an old milk box. I mean, how many people are going to remember the old milk box? And I'd love to have a picture, which I haven't found, of an old milk truck, because that was a sight that many of you that are watching, you can remember the milk trucks that used to deliver milk. Or what about the old ice cream trucks that used to come through town? We could go on and on and on, and we want to include them when we get into the second show on this subject. But Larry, I want to thank you. Thank you very much, Larry, for coming in. Larry has done a great job at the Lawrence County Museum of preserving our local history, and that's what this show is about, is preserving the things that are leaving our lives, that we no longer have with us, and that's what the topic of this show is about today. You've been watching the Indiana History Project. I'm your host, Norm Taylor. Get with me if you have some things that you would like to send in the way of picture of things that are leaving the context of our lives. We would love to hear from you. Have a good evening. Thank you for watching the show.